Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at a mock test from Colwick Driving Test Centre. Now, as I've mentioned before in other videos, we are not allowed in the test centre car park, so we're starting in the Sainsbury's just outside Colwick Driving Test Centre, and you'll notice there's a driver fault already for the vehicle checks at the start of the test. Now, this is down to the tell me questions which you'll be asked before you start driving the car. You'll only get asked one of them, and there is a playlist with all these questions on my channel. I will try and link that in the video now for you. Whenever you're making your way around a car park, remember, keep your speed nice and low. Keep yourself tucked into your side. If it's a two-way car park as well, just keep yourself looking around, keep checking those mirrors, scanning ahead, particularly if you're moving between the parking bays, because of course you're going to have people going to and from the cars trying to get in and out of spaces. So you just want to be extra cautious when you're moving around places that are busy like that. As we come up to the roundabout, we're going to be taking the second exit straight ahead from the test centre. This would be left first exit, as that comes out from the left here. Just after the roundabout, I'm going to ask the pupil to pull over on the left as well. Now, when we're pulling over on the left, all the examiners want to see is that you pick a safe place to do so. You check your mirrors, you're signalling to tell people behind what you're doing, and that you bring the car to a controlled stop close to the curb. When you move away again, don't forget to check over your shoulder before you pull away and signal to let people know that you're coming out as well. And make sure it's clear, of course. If you're pulling out as someone's coming up behind and you cause them to have to react to you, then that is going to pick you up a serious fault or a dangerous fault, depending on the circumstances. The pupil did a really nice job there, just waiting until all those vehicles had passed. At the crossroad here, we're going to be turning right. Now, of course, whenever you're taking a right turn into a side road, make sure you look up into that road before you make the turn, and double check your mirror just before the turn as well for anyone who may chance an overtake, expecting you to be a bit slower because, of course, you're a learner and people can sometimes get a little impatient behind you. Up at the traffic lights, we are going to be going straight ahead, and as we approach, you'll notice it splits into two lanes. You'll notice the markings as well, and on the far side you'll see the traffic light in the middle of the road, which shows you there is only one lane on the other side, so the left lane's the correct position for that. That said, it's always worth checking your right mirror for people who may be in the wrong lane and may try and get across the junction alongside you. Coming up to the bend in the road ahead, we are going to be taking a left turn on the bend. As you approach, mirrors and signal. Do be mindful of cars coming from the right who may try to get across before you. And looking up into that new road, you can see the parked cars. We can see there's a sharp bend at the end as well. You want to approach this quite cautiously because you do get buses coming down here. They need a lot of room to get around this bend, and there's nearly always parked cars just around the bend as well. So nice and slow and steady, and just being ready to pause for anything coming the other way. Really good example of how to do that here with this pupil. As we move away again, covering those mirrors just to make sure we're nice and safe, that nobody's trying to sneak around as we move away. And then again, covering that left mirror before moving in, just to ensure a nice safe space. Now, keeping that left mirror covered is going to keep you more aware of how much clearance you've got and reduce the chance of you getting too close to parked cars. Whilst making your way along roads like this with parked cars on the left-hand side, you can see the pupils staying in the middle of the road, which is absolutely fine as long as nothing comes the other way. Just make sure you're keeping an eye on those gaps on the left where you can dip in and wait for oncoming vehicles if you need to. As we pass this next bunch of cars, you might notice the pupil is very, very close to them, and the third car has its brake lights on, which means it's occupied. You want to be very, very careful about your clearance, because getting that close to vehicles is going to pick you up a serious fault on your test. The risk, of course, comes from that vehicle at the end moving away, or one of the doors opening, and you, of course, not having the space to respond to that. So you want to be making sure there's at least enough room for a door to open partially between you and the parked car. If you can't give that space, then you reduce your speed substantially to allow you more reaction time. And this is something that not only the examiners will be looking out for on your test, but also it's going to keep you safe after your test. Now, we are pulling up on the left here behind this grey car. This is an angle start where you'll be asked to pull up behind a particular car and then move off around it safely. Don't forget your shoulder checks, your signals, and in situations like this, we need to be looking for the oncoming vehicles too, just to ensure that when we move out, we're not going to interfere with them. I always say to double check the right shoulder as well as you start moving, just to double check everything and make sure you're extra safe. Just up ahead, we have a short bus lane, and I'm going to freeze frame this so you can see the signs on this one. Some bus lanes will have times displayed on them, and zooming in on this sign, we can see it says Monday to Friday, 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. Now, what that's telling you is that outside of those times, you can use that bus lane. So what the pupils should have done here, because it's 2:10 in the afternoon when we're doing this, is use that bus lane all the way up to the traffic lights. Because it's only short, it didn't cause any issues, I'm going to put a driver fault on this occasion. But if that's a long bus lane, or it causes problems with traffic flow, or somebody on the left side passes you, then that is going to be a serious fault. So be very mindful to look out for these signs when you're out and about on your driving test, and afterwards, of course. Coming through the traffic lights, turning left there, you want to be making sure you're looking up to that left side so you know what you're driving into, but also scanning around and keeping an eye out for things like cyclists, blue light vehicles, or other vehicles that may not be responding to the traffic lights as they should be. Sometimes people try and rush through when the lights are changing, so that's what you're looking out for as well. Up ahead, you'll see this road is changing from a 30 to a 40-mile-an-hour zone. When there is a speed change, just remember a little glance in your mirrors to see what's going on behind you is not going to do any harm. If anything, it's going to help you keep more aware and make sure that it's safe before you start building your speed up. When you build your speed up, you need to be looking further ahead as well to match that speed in order to help with your planning. This is going to help you spot problems up ahead, such as the work van that we've got. If you need to deal with that, you want to spot it early, you want to be on those mirrors early, and you need to be reducing your speed early as well. So the pupil did a really nice job approaching that, making sure everything was safe before she moved around it. Up ahead, you can see some roadworks here, the left lane being closed off. Just keep an eye on the right side as you're taking up position coming through these. And of course, keep an eye on that left mirror too to ensure you've got a good clearance on that left side. Something I've seen pupils do a lot over the years is they're too busy focusing on the right-hand side, making sure they've got clearance from the oncoming vehicles. And as a result, they end up moving into the left too far. And then I have to intervene. And that can be done either by touching the wheel or by verbally reminding the pupil to keep it on the left side. Now, when it comes to your driving test, if the examiner feels the need to intervene, whether it's verbal or physical, that will go down as a serious or potentially dangerous fault on your test. Just here, I'm going to record a serious fault for normal driving position. Now, if you skip back about 20 seconds, you'll see that that left-hand lane was completely clear for a good distance, and the pupil made no effort to move into that left side. Our normal driving position is the left-hand lane, and that's where we should be unless we're overtaking or if we're using that lane to follow a direction, such as when we're following road signs or if the left lane becomes left only. So the pupil should have been on that left lane as soon as the roadworks ended. Just like you see there, it does go down as a serious fault. Now the pupils moved over to the right here nice and early, ready for the traffic light junction up ahead. Anytime you're moving over to the right, don't forget your mirrors, don't forget your signals. Looking at the big direction sign on the right there, you'll see we're going into Victoria Retail Park. Now this seems a little bit of an odd one, but it is on some of the Colwick test routes where you'll go in, you'll go up to the second roundabout, make a U-turn, and then make your way back out onto the loop road again. As we queue up at these traffic lights, you can see the pupils leaving a nice space between the car in front and her, which is absolutely brilliant. You always want to leave a little bit of room between you. Don't get right up to the bumper. You'll notice the filter light as well here, pointing to the right-hand side. Now this allows the pupil to go straight across the junction. Remember though, a green light doesn't mean that you can just go blindly without a care in the world. You should be scanning around to ensure that it's safe to make progress across that junction. At the roundabout, we're going straight ahead second exit, and it's really important to keep that left-hand position all the way around the roundabout. Notice the pupil doesn't quite manage that and cuts into the middle of the two lanes on the roundabout. That unfortunately is going to go down as a serious fault because there was no mirror use. And of course, if there was a car on the right hand side, that could have resulted in them either having to take evasive action or even worse, a collision. So you want to make sure you're getting all the way out to the outer edge of that roundabout. At this roundabout, we're making a U-turn, so keeping close to the roundabout until we pass this third exit, left mirror, left signal, and then off we go if it's safe to do so. If you can't leave the roundabout safely, just go around it again, of course. And that's going to bring us back to the first roundabout where again we're going to go straight ahead, second exit. Now, whilst there's only one lane on the way into this roundabout, there's 4 lanes on the other side, and you'll need to be planning which lane you need for which way you're going at the traffic lights before you enter that roundabout. Otherwise, you're going to struggle to get in position as you leave on the other side. Something else to be mindful of here is the bus parked up on the left. You can see it is in service, and that of course means there's the potential for people to try and get on or off that bus, and sometimes people like to walk out in front of vehicles like this. The hedges on the right do make that a little more challenging, but just keep an eye out for that anyway. As we're getting close to the roundabout, you can see this is quite a busy roundabout with a lot of traffic coming out from the retail park. So you'll have to be very careful about picking your opportunities to join the roundabout. Be mindful of cars coming around like this black one as well. And as we go across the roundabout then, we're going to be taking a right at the traffic lights towards Southall. On your driving test, the examiner will give you plenty of notice about how you need to position at the traffic lights. If you're following Sat Nav like this pupil is, then the Sat Nav should also give you that information, but if it doesn't, the examiner will explain it for you, so don't stress about that too much. If you notice the markings on this junction here, we're going to be going right towards Southall. Now, lane 3 does say right, but it also says Carlton and Gedling, so we don't want to be in that lane unless we're going Carlton and Gedling. As we move forward, see it says Swell on the markings, that is Southall. Now, because we've got 2 lanes that are turning right, you need to make sure your position is absolutely spot on as you make that turn, because we don't want to be cutting into that left lane as we leave the junction on the other side. The pupil does a really nice job here keeping to the right hand side, close to that post in the middle of the road, and allowing plenty of room on the left for the other lane to come with. What she does do wrong, however, is as our lane splits into 2, she takes the right hand side of it, whereas ideally we should be on the left hand side. Now, being in the right lane in itself is not going to cost you on your driving test, provided you merge safely to the left hand lane when you get an opportunity to do so. Unfortunately, what this pupil did was try to get in front of the lorry when there just wasn't enough room to do so. As a result, I've had to tell her she needs to back off and slip in behind the lorry, and that verbal intervention to prevent a collision is going to go down as a dangerous fault on this occasion. I'm also going to record a driver fault for following distance because she was too close behind the lorry when she moved in behind it, and then it took a few moments before she realized this and started to back off. If you do find yourself driving quite close behind something, make sure you back off and correct that as soon as you're aware of it. If you don't correct it, that is going to escalate into a serious fault, especially if the examiner has to prompt you into doing this. Now, of course, this is a lot worse when it comes to larger vehicles because they create a much bigger visual barrier, and it means you can't plan as effectively to what's going on ahead of that vehicle. If you can see more of what's ahead, then you can plan better for what that vehicle is going to do, and that's going to keep you more safe, not just on your driving test, but when you've passed as well. Be mindful of lanes merging as well, keeping an eye on that right mirror for anyone who's trying to get that last minute overtake. And this is especially true when you're driving a car with L plates, because you'll get a number of people who just want to get ahead of the learner. Now, if you can spot them early, then you can keep yourself calmer because you're more aware of what's going on around you, and you can respond more smoothly to those situations too. However, if you're not aware of it, you can't plan for it, and it's going to catch you off guard and cause a sharp reaction and a spike in your nerves as well. So good awareness and planning to deal with these situations before they catch you off guard, that's what's going to keep you calm on your driving test, and that's going to give you a much better chance of being successful on the big day. On the left here, you'll see a direction sign telling us that Arnold is off to the left and there's a separate lane for this turn. The pupil does a nice job checking her mirrors and signalling before taking up that position, looking up into the left as well before we enter the road. On the second one, however, those who are quite keen-eyed might notice she leans out to the right before making this second left turn. Because there's a live lane on the right hand side of us, this has to be recorded as a serious fault because there's a high potential that someone could be in that lane and she hasn't checked before doing that. This is quite a common mistake that a lot of drivers seem to make. When they're coming up to a junction, they seem to lean away from the turn before turning in, and that can create a real big risk to anyone who's nearby, particularly on situations like that when there's a live lane alongside them. If you don't know what's alongside you, you cannot enter that lane safely. So your mirror use is really key to reduce the risk there, but equally, why are you swinging out before you make that turn? What we should be doing in these situations is just bringing the nose of the car into our side of the road and keeping close to that curb so we don't interfere with traffic in the other lanes and potentially oncoming traffic as we go into that new road. Now up ahead, we're going to see a snowball effect when someone makes a mistake and then it escalates into more mistakes because they're thinking about the first mistake they made. Notice the pupil's speed drops here below 20 miles an hour and there's no real need for it. All she's doing is disrupting the cars behind her. As a result, she picks up her speed, not paying attention to the crossing that's up ahead, and fails to notice the one on the right hand side. She's then panic reacted and stopped on the crossing to let the woman cross. Now, unfortunately, both of those have got to be recorded as serious faults. And then as a kind of panic reaction, after making these mistakes and knowing that this has cost her a mock test, she then starts to speed. It's only a small amount and she corrects herself, but that's still got to go down as a driver fault. Now, unfortunately, during my 11 years as an instructor, I found a lot of people do exactly this on their lessons, on mock tests, and even on the real test. And unfortunately, it can happen to even the most confident of drivers. I've had situations where I've sent a pupil in for the driving test who I am absolutely confident they're going to pass first time with a clean sheet, and they come back with a ridiculous number of faults because this has happened. Now, typically, this is just a case of the pupil getting too focused on the mistake they've just made rather than just focusing forward on what they're doing next. Because they're not focused on what they're doing next, they make another mistake and then it snowballs and gets worse and worse and worse. The quick fix solution, if you want one, is don't focus on your mistakes. If you think you've made a mistake, fix it and move on. Because as soon as you start dwelling on that mistake, you're going to make more mistakes. And this snowball effect is quickly going to get the better of you. So back to focusing forward, I'm going to ask my pupil to do a right reverse exercise. Now this is where you pull up on the right hand side of the road. You will then reverse about 2 car lengths, keeping quite close to the curb, and then you'll be asked to drive on again as normal. When you do pull over on the right, just be mindful that you are crossing the oncoming traffic, so you want to make sure you're doing that safely, and you want to get quite close to the curb. If you can get the car nice and straight as well, that's going to help you because there's less corrections to make as you start reversing. When you do reverse, make sure you're looking over your left shoulder in all your mirrors and over your right shoulder, and then just cycling back round to that left shoulder. Keep your head moving, keep checking those shoulders until the examiner tells you that's far enough, you can stop. When you're going to move back out into the road again, don't forget to check your left shoulder. Make sure that nothing's coming towards you, and then as you start moving out, double check that left shoulder again. This is going to help you keep aware of what's going on around you and keep safe when you do this. If you're not sure, wait and double check things before you move out. You don't want to go with a question mark over your head. You want to go with absolute certainty that it's safe to move. When you're traveling along roads such as this, where there's parked cars on both sides, just be mindful to keep an eye on both mirrors. This is going to help you keep aware of your clearance as you're passing these cars. Making sure again that you're not getting too close to them is really important. You need to try and leave enough room for those doors to open safely as you're passing by. And if you are struggling for space, then remember, lowering your speed is the way to deal with that. If you've got less room, you just come through a lot slower. Up ahead, you can see a number of warning signs telling you about the road narrowing. Anytime you see warnings like this, reduce your speed, cover your mirrors, and be ready to stop, because as you can see here with the lawnmower and the pedestrian in that tunnel, you are not going to get through. Now, the pupil was a little bit late to respond to that, but not to the point I felt it was worth marking anything. So just keep in mind when you're coming up to situations like this, any narrow spaces, lower your speed, cover your mirrors, and be ready to stop, and that will keep you safe. And this is not just about passing your test, remember, this is about preparing for afterwards. Just up ahead, we've got another bridge. There's plenty of room here to pass oncoming cars, but it can feel a little bit tight. And as you can see, there's a bit of a hill. I'm going to get the pupil to pull over and do her hill start on this one. Now, whenever you're doing a hill start, make sure you're not too close to the brow of the hill. If you are too close to the brow of the hill, it's going to make it difficult for cars coming up the hill to see what's coming the other way, and that's going to put them at risk. So the pupil did a nice job keeping shy of the brow of the hill there. Moving off again is just a case of checking your blind spot and making sure you don't let the car roll back as you move away. Now, in the car that I'm using in this video, it is automatic and rolling back is very unlikely. Just ahead, you can see some motorbikes coming the other way, and the pupils made a good decision here to hold back and let them finish coming through since they're already in the middle of the road. The added risk here is the fact that they are learners on motorbikes. Motorbikes are vulnerable enough as it is without them being learners anyway. So just giving them plenty of room, letting them finish what they're doing, keeps everyone a little bit more safe. Now we're going to be taking the next road on the left. It's quite a tight and blind entry, so the pupils lowered her speed really nicely to come in there. If something was coming the other way, she would have to stop on the way into that turn, and that's what you're preparing for as you make those tight turns. Again, with the bend here, very limited view, so you can see the pupils keeping a nice low speed. She's also on her mirrors quite frequently, which keeps her up to date on what's going on behind. So this is a really good demonstration of dealing with tight spaces like this. Just keep that speed low, and even though you can't see her doing this on the camera, you want to be checking your mirrors frequently to keep yourself as aware of your surroundings as possible. Just up ahead, you can see the end of the road, the white markings on the road telling you this, of course, and the give way sign on the left. The pupil does a really nice job here spotting this and slowing down to make sure it's safe before emerging into that new road. As we approach the zebra crossing, there's no give way signs or markings, and you can see the road actually leads around to the left-hand side naturally. Now, in a situation like this, if you're going to the left, you're following the road ahead, so there's no need to signal as you make this turn because you're following the road. Because the pupil did signal, it's not necessary to do so. I'm going to record that as a driver fault. Now, that might seem a little bit petty, but this is something the examiners may mark on your driving test if you signal when you don't need to, or you don't signal when you should be signaling, then the odds are the examiner is going to record a driver fault. The way to make sure that you're signaling correctly, of course, is to look out for how the markings lead you or how signs direct you as well. At the start of your driving test, the examiner will tell you to follow the road ahead unless signs or markings direct you otherwise. So making that left turn back there would be following the road ahead rather than a left turn. And this means the examiner may not actually direct you there, but might expect you to just follow the road to the left-hand side anyway. Just ahead, we're coming to a set of traffic lights where I've asked the pupil to take a right turn. Now, as we approach this, you want to be mindful of the road on the right here. You don't want to signal too soon because it's going to mislead people into thinking you're trying to turn there. Checking your mirrors before you take up position, of course, is absolutely essential. And then just delay the signal until you pass that side road as to not mislead anyone. As the lights change, you can see we've got a green arrow telling us we can drive straight across that junction and that nobody else should have priority over us. Still have a glance round for things like the pedestrian coming off the left side there who may not see us coming round. She might look up the main road instead and may step out. So if you're looking ahead and identifying these problems nice and early, then you can keep yourself safe more effectively. The same as well with lanes merging as you come out of traffic light junctions. If you can spot that nice and early, you can cover your mirrors nice and early and just pick up on anyone who may cause you a problem. And then you can respond smoothly and calmly to those situations. At the next traffic light, we are going to be taking a left turn. So as we approach, of course, the pupil's in the left lane, the mirrors are covered, and we are signalling as we approach the back of this lorry. Notice how the pupil sits back from the lorry as well, not getting too close to the back end of it. Remember, getting too close to large vehicles creates a massive visual barrier. Now, if you remember earlier where the pupil took a left turn at the traffic light, she leant out to the right before making the turn. Notice her doing it again here. Now, while she doesn't cross the white line, getting that close to that HGV on the right-hand side has to be recorded as a serious fault. As I mentioned earlier, this is a really easy mistake to make, and it's something that people can get into a bad habit of doing. Now, this pupil in particular didn't realise she was doing it until after we reviewed this footage. At the roundabout, we're supposed to have gone right third exit. The pupil unfortunately misses her turn. I think she was a bit too focused on the van on the left side and forgot about the whole exit routine. So she's made the right choice here and gone around the roundabout again before exiting. If you do find yourself in that situation, there is nothing wrong with doing this. Just keep yourself calm and focused on exiting safely when you can. That brings this mock test to an end. I hope you found the video useful in preparing for your own driving test. If you have, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments below too. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.